The ice drill groaned as Jake Martinez guided it deeper into Europa's frozen crust. Sweat beaded on his forehead, despite the sub-zero temperatures in mining station Epsilon 7. Something was wrong with the power distribution system. Again. "Martinez, we're getting weird readings down here." Commander Walsh's voice crackled through his helmet comm. "Power spike in Section D4. That's supposed to be sealed storage." Jake frowned. He'd worked on this station for 3 years and never heard of Section D4. "I'll check it out." 20 minutes later, Jake stood before a door marked with warnings in 7 languages. His security clearance shouldn't have opened it, but the power surge had apparently fried the locks. Inside, he found something that made his blood run cold. A railgun. Not the small ones used for asteroid mining, but a monster that filled the entire chamber. Scientists in lab coats scattered like startled birds as Jake entered. "You're not supposed to be here." Dr. Sarah Yamanaka stepped forward, her face pale. "Neither is this." Jake gestured at the weapon. "What the hell?" The station lurched. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. The railgun's capacitors hummed, building to a crescendo. "The power surge," Yamanaka screamed. "It's triggered the firing sequence. We can't stop it." Jake's engineer instincts kicked in. Everyone out. Decomp protocols. The railgun fired with a thunderclap that shook the entire station. A tungsten rod accelerated to 15% light speed, punched through the station's hull like tissue paper. In the vacuum of space, there was no sound, but Jake felt the vibration in his bones. Through the emergency shields that slammed down over the breach, they watched the projectile's path, a line of light stretching across the solar system. It pierced 3 asteroids without slowing, each impact creating a brief flash. "Trajectory," Jake demanded. Yamanaka's fingers flew over her console. "Neptune space." "But there's nothing." She never finished. The projectile struck something invisible near Neptune. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to shimmer and tear. A massive structure materialized, organic curves and crystalline spires. Clearly alien. The impact point glowed white-hot, then erupted in a chain reaction of explosions. The cloaked station, larger than any human space habitat, came apart in seconds. "Jesus Christ," Jake whispered. What did we just shoot?" Alarms blared across every human frequency. Earth, Mars, the Belt colonies. Everyone had seen the explosion. "A Vexathi observation post," Yamanaka said numbly. "They've been watching us for centuries. We weren't supposed to have weapons that cold." She stopped as every screen in the station lit up with an incoming transmission. An alien face appeared, tentacles writhing, 3 eyes wide with shock. "I am Ambassador Takara of the Vexathi Empire," the translator rendered. "You have destroyed our research station with a weapon that violates 7 galactic treaties. Explain yourselves." Jake looked at the hole in the hull, at the cooling railgun, at the alien on the screen. It was an accident. The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, Jake Martinez, maintenance engineer, realized he'd just fired the shot that would change human history forever. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension as 37 different species argued in their native tongues. At the center of the amphitheater, Ambassador Takara's hologram flickered, her tentacles coiled tight with indignation. "The humans possess a weapon of unprecedented destruction," she declared. "They must surrender it immediately." Dr. Sarah Chen stood calmly at Earth's podium, her fingers drumming a subtle rhythm on the crystalline surface. Beside her, Admiral Jack Thompson watched the alien delegates with the calculating eyes of a poker player. "With respect," Chen began, "the incident was an accident. A power surge triggered a prototype." "Lies." The Krell delegate slammed his armored fist. "No species develops such weapons by accident." Chen smiled. "Would you like a demonstration?" The chamber fell silent. Thompson touched his earpiece and nodded. "Connecting to Lieutenant Lisa Wong, currently stationed in the asteroid belt," Chen announced. The main display shifted to show a young woman floating in a small cockpit, her flight suit adorned with mission patches. Lieutenant Wang, Chen said clearly, please demonstrate human accidental capabilities. Wang grinned and cracked her knuckles. 17 targets, right? Watch this. On the screen, 17 marker buoys activated throughout the asteroid belt, each protected by standard galactic defense shields. Wang closed her eyes and placed her hands on the controls. She's not even looking, the Zinthari delegate exclaimed. Wang fired. A single railgun projectile lanced out, striking an asteroid at a precise angle. The ricochet hit the first buoy dead center, passed through its shield like it wasn't there, then bounced off another asteroid toward the second target. The projectile continued its impossible journey, using gravitational assists and perfectly calculated rebounds to thread through all 17 targets in sequence. The entire process took less than 30 seconds. The chamber erupted in chaos. Several delegates fainted. Others demanded immediate verification of what they'd witnessed. Wang opened her eyes and shrugged. That's just basic geometry. Want to see what I can do when I'm actually trying. Chen turned to face the stunned assembly. The weapon that destroyed the Vexathi station was a mining tool modified by board engineers. Lieutenant Wang's railgun is a training model we give to cadets. Admiral Thompson stepped forward. The truth, honored delegates, is that humans have possessed functional railgun technology for decades. We've been showing remarkable restraint. Elder Zixnoid of the Council rose slowly, his ancient eyes wide with realization. You're saying the accident was intentional, not the accident itself, Chen clarified. But perhaps it's time the galaxy understood that humans aren't the backward species you've assumed. We've mastered kinetic weapons while you've obsessed over energy shields that can't stop simple physics. Terra's image flickered violently. This is a threat. No, Thompson smiled coldly. It's a wake-up call. We've watched you watch us, judging us, dismissing us as primitives. The accident showed you a fraction of what we're capable of. The question is, do you want to see the rest? The chamber fell into stunned silence as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just entered the galactic stage. They'd kicked down the door. Chen placed a data crystal on the podium. Here's our counter-proposal. Full council membership with veto power, or we continue these accidents. Your choice. The vote was unanimous. The Krell Warfleet emerged from hyperspace like an angry swarm of metal locusts. 300 dreadnoughts, each the size of a small moon, their hulls bristling with plasma cannons and antimatter torpedoes. Admiral Krathor stood on his command deck, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. The humans dare refuse our demands, he growled. We'll turn their pathetic planet to ash. On Earth's moon, in a bunker buried beneath Tycho crater, 16-year-old Marcus Johnson adjusted his gaming chair and slipped on his neural interface headset. Around him, screens displayed thousands of micro-railgun platforms hidden throughout the solar system. You sure about this kid? General Williams asked nervously. Dr. Elena Reyes checked Marcus's vital signs. His reaction time is 0.03 seconds. He sees patterns no computer can predict, and he's beaten every strategic simulation we have. Marcus cracked his knuckles. It's just like Cosmic Destroyer 3000, except the graphics are better. He grinned. Let's dance. The Krell fleet approached Earth, confident in their technological superiority. Their shields could withstand direct hits from fusion bombs. Their armor had never been breached. Marcus took a deep breath and began. His first shot used a railgun hidden on Phobos. The projectile skimmed Mars' atmosphere, using atmospheric drag to curve its trajectory, then ricocheted off a precisely positioned mirror satellite. It struck the Krell flagship's sensor array at exactly the right angle to create a cascade failure. Impossible. Krathor roared as his ship went blind. That was just the warm-up. Marcus's fingers danced across holographic controls. Micro-railguns fired in perfect sequence. Projectiles bounced off space debris, use gravitational slingshots around moons, threaded through asteroid fields. Each shot set up the next in an intricate cosmic ballet. A tungsten rod no bigger than a pencil struck a Krell dreadnought's shield generator at relativistic speed. The shield collapsed. A second projectile, arriving milliseconds later, pierced the reactor core. The dreadnought became a miniature sun. Pattern Gamma 7. Marcus muttered, lost in concentration. 12 railguns fired simultaneously. Their projectiles converged on a single point in space, creating a temporary artificial gravity well that pulled 3 Krell ships into each other. The alien commanders couldn't comprehend what was happening. Their tactical computers crashed trying to predict firing solutions that seemed to violate causality itself. "He's using the solar system like a pinball machine," Dr. Rice whispered in awe. Marcus executed his masterpiece. A single shot from a railgun on Ganymede bounced off 17 different surfaces, gaining speed with each gravitational assist. By the time it reached the Krell command ship, it was traveling at 40% light speed. The impact vaporized half the vessel. In 20 minutes, the most feared warfleet in the galaxy was reduced to an expanding cloud of debris. Marcus pulled off his headset, yawned, and reached for his energy drink. "GG," he said casually. "Got any harder levels?" Across the galaxy, military academies would study the Battle of Seoul for centuries. How a teenager with gaming skills had defeated the Krell using nothing but precise physics calculations and an uncanny ability to see patterns in chaos. The age of energy weapons was over. The age of kinetic warfare had begun. And humanity's greatest warriors weren't soldiers. They were gamers. Retro ESH. Captain Maria Rodriguez watched the Zargath destroyer on her tactical display, frustration mounting. The alien vessel's quantum shields shimmered mockingly, deflecting every railgun shot her crew attempted. "Damn it," she muttered, slamming her fist on the console. Fire Solution Omega 9. The railgun discharged, sending a depleted uranium slug toward the enemy ship. At the last millisecond, the destroyer phase shifted, letting the projectile pass harmlessly through. Target evaded, her weapons officer reported. Projectile continuing on trajectory into deep space. Rodriguez sighed. "Log it as a miss. Let's try." 3 weeks later, that missed shot would change the galaxy forever. The slug traveled through empty space at 0.2s, its path taking it far beyond the solar system. By cosmic coincidence, or perhaps fate, it struck an object floating in the void between stars, an artifact older than most civilizations. The impact awakened something that had slept for millions of years. Dr. Jennifer Chang was monitoring deep space sensors when every screen in her lab went haywire. What the hell? Energy readings spiked across all spectrums, centered on a 4.2 light-years from Earth. Ancient machines stirred to life. A network of dormant hyperspace gates, built by a long-dead civilization, began to activate. First one, then dozens, then thousands across the galaxy. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session as reports flooded in. Hyperspace passages were opening everywhere, connecting distant corners of the galaxy instantaneously. "This is impossible," the Vexathi scientist proclaimed. The architects vanished eons ago. Their gate network was dead. But humanity saw opportunity where others saw crisis. Within hours, human ships poured through the gates. Not warships, but cargo haulers, tourist vessels, mining prospectors, and colony ships. Entrepreneurs set up trade routes. Scientists established research stations. Adventurers mapped new paths through the network. "We can't control this," Ambassador Takara protested as the council watched human expansion with growing alarm. "They're spreading too fast." Earth's representative, Admiral Chen, shrugged. "You wanted us to join the galactic community. We're just enthusiastic participants." The truth was more profound. Humans possessed something no other species had: adaptability born from chaos. While alien civilizations sought to understand the gate network before using it, humans just jumped in and figured it out as they went. Marcus Wong, brother of the now famous Lisa Wong, established the first human colony in the Andromeda Galaxy. Found this sweet planet, he broadcasted. Great beaches, starting a resort. Y'all should visit. The Krell warrior caste demanded military action, but their fleets couldn't keep up with human dispersion. By the time they reached one human settlement, 10 more had sprouted elsewhere. 6 months after Rodriguez's missed shot, humanity had spread further than any species in recorded history. The accident had triggered a gold rush, a mass exodus, and a cultural revolution all at once. In her cabin aboard the U.S. Serendipity, Rodriguez studied the reports and laughed. Her failure had opened the stars to humanity. Sometimes, she told her crew, the shots you miss matter more than the ones you hit. The butterfly had flapped its wings. The universe would never be the same. The Galactic Banking Consortium's vault on Nexus Prime was considered impenetrable. 20 layers of quantum shielding, antimatter mines, and guards from 6 warrior species protected quadrillions in crystallized credits. No one had ever attempted to rob it, until Dr. Elena Volkov and her crew arrived. Remember, Volkov addressed her team from their ship parked in orbit. Physics doesn't care about your security systems. The former MIT professor turned pirate queen adjusted her eye patch, a fashionable affectation hiding advanced targeting systems. Her crew was unusual. A jazz musician with perfect timing, a ballet dancer with supernatural spatial awareness, a chess grandmaster who saw patterns in everything, and a quantum physicist who thought rules were merely suggestions. "Target locked," announced Jazz, the musician, his fingers dancing over the railgun controls, firing in 3/4 time. Now, a grain-sized projectile launched at 0.3 C, threaded through a gap in Nexus Prime's orbital defense grid, bounced off a communications satellite, and struck the vault's exterior at precisely the resonant frequency of its quantum shields. The shields rang like a bell and collapsed. "My turn," whispered Sasha, the dancer. She fired 12 micro-projectiles in a sequence that would have made Bolshoi choreographers weep. Each shot struck a specific atom in the vault's locking mechanism, causing a cascade failure that opened the doors without triggering alarms. Inside the bank, guards scrambled in confusion as security systems reported nothing wrong, even as the vault stood wide open. "Checkmate in 17 moves," declared Nikolai, the chess master. His calculated shots disabled guard weapons, communications, and transport systems in perfect sequence, leaving the security forces helpless but unharmed. The quantum physicist, Dr. Park, giggled as she executed the final. Conservation of momentum is such a beautiful thing. Her projectiles created localized gravity distortions that lifted the crystallized credits from their containment fields and gently guided them through the vault's open doors into space. Volkov's crew collected their prize and vanished before anyone understood what had happened. News of the heist spread across the galaxy. The physics pirates, as they became known, continued their impossible crimes, liberating political prisoners by removing single bricks from fortress walls, disabling warships by striking individual atoms in their reactors, stealing artwork by temporarily altering local space-time curvature. Law enforcement agencies were helpless. How do you catch criminals who use fundamental forces of nature as their tools? "They're not just thieves," complained Inspector Zixtan of the Galactic Police. "They're artists, and that's what makes them so dangerous." The physics pirates became folk heroes among humans and a nightmare for authorities. They never killed, rarely injured, and often targeted the corrupt and powerful. Their calling card was elegance, crimes so precisely executed they seemed to mock the very concept of security. During a rare interview, Volkov explained their philosophy. Every security system assumes criminals will use brute force or stealth. We use equations. While they're watching for armies, we strike with atoms. While they shield against energy weapons, we attack with momentum. She smiled beneath her eye patch. The universe has laws. We just know how to bend them. The galaxy learned to fear not human weapons, but human understanding. For when humans truly grasped something, they didn't just use it. They played with it. The Harmony Collective's fleet moved like a cosmic orchestra, their ships flowing in perfect synchronization. Each vessel leaked prismatic energy beams that wove together in deadly fractals, creating a shield and sword formation that had never been defeated in 10,000 years of warfare. Admiral Sophia Nadeau watched from the bridge of the ESR's Requiem, her eyes narrowed. "They're beautiful," she admitted, studying the enemy's intricate patterns. Commander Jazz Thompson stood beside her, his musician's mind already dissecting the alien rhythm. "Every dance has a counterstep," he mused. "Every symphony has silence between the notes." The Harmony Collective had declared humanity an affront to cosmic order, their chaotic nature disrupting the perfect mathematical beauty of the universe. Now they came to impose their version of peace, complete synchronization or annihilation. "Initialize the orchestra," Nadeau ordered. Across human space, railgun operators took their positions. These weren't soldiers, but artists, drummers, dancers, composers, and conductors, each chosen for their innate sense of rhythm and spatial harmony. Jazz took the conductor's position. "Listen to their frequency," he broadcast. "Feel their pattern. Now, let's show them what chaos can create." The first human shots seemed random. Railgun projectiles fired at odd angles, strange velocities, nonsensical trajectories. The Harmony Collective's formation adjusted smoothly, their beams weaving new patterns to intercept. But Jazz was playing a deeper game. Each missed shot created subtle gravitational perturbations. Each projectile's path influenced local spacetime. Slowly, invisibly, the human attack built a counter-rhythm in the fabric of space itself. "Second movement," Jazz announced, his hands flowing like a maestro's. "Percussion section, introduce syncopation." Railguns fired in clusters, their projectiles forming geometric shapes that seemed to serve no tactical purpose. The Harmony fleet responded with mathematical precision, their formations growing more complex to counter each new pattern. Ballet dancer Yuki Tanaka controlled the third wave. Her projectiles pirouetted through space, each one's trajectory a perfect arc that somehow avoided the enemy's defensive web. The aliens' synchronized perfection began to work against them, their rigid patterns unable to adapt to deliberate imperfection. "They're starting to desynchronize," the tactical officer reported. "Their formation is showing microfractures." Jazz smiled. Final movement. Time for the crescendo. Every human railgun fired simultaneously. But instead of targeting ships, the projectiles created interference patterns in the gravitational waves generated by the battle. The Harmony Collective's perfect synchronization became their doom, their own resonance frequencies amplified by the human attack until their formation shattered like crystal. Ships collided as their synchronized movements fell apart. Beam weapons fired wildly as targeting solutions corrupted. The perfect order dissolved into chaos. Then, silence. A single Harmony ship broadcast surrender. "We yield to your superior artistry," the message came. "We have never encountered beings who could turn disorder into such terrible beauty." Jazz lowered his hands, exhausted but triumphant. "We didn't defeat their pattern," he explained to Admiral Nadeau. "We created a more complex one they couldn't comprehend." Sometimes the most devastating weapon isn't force, it's creativity. The battle became known as Thompson's Symphony, studied across the galaxy as the moment humanity proved that chaos, properly conducted, could overcome even perfect order. The Galactic Peace Summit on Xerxes IV was supposed to mark a new era of cooperation. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the crystalline towers of the diplomatic spire, their translators working overtime to bridge cultural divides. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat at Earth's delegation table, her expression serene as High Chancellor Ralvex of the Dominion concluded his opening remarks. "And so we must address the primitive nature of humanity's kinetic weapons," Ralvex proclaimed, his bioluminescent skin pulsing with condescension. These crude projectile devices have no place in civilized warfare. They lack the elegance of our quantum disruptors or the precision of Krell plasma lances. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Chen remained silent, her fingers resting lightly on a small metallic cylinder. Perhaps, Ralvex continued, humanity should surrender these barbaric tools before they hurt themselves. After all, throwing rocks is hardly. The sharp crack interrupted him. Delegates dove for cover as Ralvex's ceremonial water chalice exploded. Crystal shards scattered across the polished floor. Chen hadn't moved from her seat. She held up the metallic cylinder, a micro railgun no larger than a pen. "My apologies," she said calmly. "I was demonstrating precision." As the delegates cautiously returned to their seats, a low rumble began. The floor vibrated. Chandeliers swayed. Several aliens scrambled for earthquake protocols. That, Chen continued conversationally, was a grain of rice fired at Mach 15. It passed through your chalice, through this table, through the floor, and is currently burrowing toward the planet's mantle. In approximately 4 minutes, it will trigger a localized seismic event. The rumbling intensified. Cracks appeared in the ornate walls. "This is the lowest power setting," Chen added, examining her nails. "Would you like to discuss what maximum yield could do to, say, a planetary defense grid, or perhaps a moon?" Ralvex's bioluminescence flickered erratically. "This is an act of war." "This is a physics lesson," Chen corrected. "You called our weapons primitive. I'm showing you that E equals Mach 2 doesn't care about your opinion." The earthquake hit full force. Nothing dangerous. Chen had calculated precisely, but enough to make her point. Priceless artifacts toppled. Dignified ambassadors clung to their chairs. Through it all, Chen sipped her tea. "Now then," she said as the shaking subsided, "shall we discuss the proposed limitations on kinetic weapons? Our position is simple. Any restriction applied to human railguns must equally apply to all energy weapons, plasma casters, and quantum disruptors." The chamber fell silent except for the sound of settling debris. Or, Chen smiled, "We could demonstrate our medium power settings. I hear the third moon of Xerxes has lovely crater formations this time of year." The treaty was signed within the hour. Humans retained full rights to their kinetic weapons, with the added provision that they would refrain from using planets as demonstration targets during future negotiations. As the delegates filed out, Ralvex approached Chen. He struggled for words, impressively precise terrorism. "Diplomacy," Chen corrected, pocketing her micro-railgun. "The art of making your point without starting a war. Though sometimes you need to shake things up a bit." The Chancellor's skin pulsed in what might have been respect. "Indeed, we shall not underestimate human primitiveness again." "Smart choice," Chen winked. "Now about those trade agreements." RetroESH. The Grand Galactic Science Fair drew the brightest minds from across known space. Crystalline towers displayed breakthrough discoveries in quantum mechanics, stellar engineering, and biological advancement. Ancient races showcased technologies that bent reality itself. In Hall 23B, 9-year-old Tommy Wilson from Detroit stood beside his project. A cardboard display titled, "Making Yesterday's Shots Today," a study in temporal ballistics. Judge Vornath, a renowned physicist from the Enlightened Consortium, approached with barely concealed disdain. "And what has the human child brought?" "Another primitive projectile demonstration." Tommy grinned, adjusting his oversized safety goggles. "Want to see something cool?" Without waiting for an answer, he activated his device, a small railgun cobbled together from household parts and a quantum processor he'd won in a gaming tournament. "Now watch the target." Tommy pointed to an apple floating in a stasis field. "I'm going to shoot it, but not yet." The apple exploded. Tommy's railgun fired 3 seconds later. The gathered scientists stared in shocked silence. Temporal sensors confirmed the impossible. The projectile had struck its target before being fired. That violates causality. sputtered Dr. Zaxillian, dropping his recorder. Nah, Tommy shrugged. I just quantum entangled the projectile with tachyon particles and created a closed time-like curve. The math's pretty simple. He displayed equations that made several alien mathematicians whimper. Professor Cathax examined the device. This is impossible. The energy requirements alone. Oh, that's easy, Tommy interrupted. I used the 0-point energy from my mom's coffee maker. Had to modify it though. Now it makes coffee before she wants it, which is super convenient. More scientists gathered, their sophisticated instruments confirming the impossible. The child had casually broken several fundamental laws of physics using spare parts and video game logic. How did you conceive this? Demanded the chief science minister. Tommy scratched his head. Well, in Cosmic Warrior 5, there's this boss you can't beat unless you shoot him before he spawns. So I figured, why not try it in real life? The implications rippled through the scientific community. Humanity hadn't just mastered kinetic weapons. They'd weaponized causality itself. Their children played with concepts that terrified elder races. As judges awarded Tommy first prize, and several research institutes offered him immediate tenure, Ambassador Chen watched from the audience with satisfaction. Phase 3 complete, she whispered into her comm. The galaxy now understands. The truth was elegantly simple. Humans didn't fear the universe's rules because they saw them as puzzles to solve, games to play, challenges to overcome. While other species worked within boundaries, humans asked, what if we didn't? Tommy's invention was quickly classified, but the message had been sent. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their railguns or their tactics. It was their unique ability to look at the impossible and say, challenge accepted. As alien civilizations scrambled to understand temporal ballistics, Tommy Wilson returned to school, already working on his next project, using black holes as marble runs. The age of human dominance hadn't begun with sophisticated technology or military might. It began with a species that never learned the meaning of "that's impossible." And in a universe governed by laws, the most dangerous beings were those who saw rules as suggestions. The stars belong to the rule breakers. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.